And let's switch gears a little bit and head over to Steve Newman. We got the tropics heating up.
We certainly do, and we broke a record in the Gulf of Mexico. It has never gone this long in the Gulf of Mexico without a tropical storm or a hurricane. And we'll give you all that information in a minute. But let's take a look at our Lakewood Ranch Cam, which was the closest one to the passing storms, that severe weather we had up toward Wauchula and Ona earlier today. And you can see them out in the distance. And then skies cleared or partly cloudy for a nice sunset across the Suncoast. Hope you got outside and enjoyed it. Currently at the airport, it is 80 degrees, feels about 88. Our dew point is 73 with a southeast wind at 9 miles an hour. Across the state, those areas that got some rain cooled off a little bit. Tampa was not one of those areas, so they're still 84, but Fort Myers did 75, Miami 83. In our viewing area, again, things cooled off into the 70s in some areas in the heart of the viewing area, but the residual heat of the ground has warmed it back up. Right now, 85 at Longboat Key, Siesta 83. Across the state, our radars are sweeping and not finding much, although it did look menacing with that sea breeze front from the Atlantic approaching us, but it kind of dissipated just on our doorstep, and there's only one little shower left as we looked at earlier. Well, here we go. We broke a record today, 1,048 days since we had a hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico. The previous record was Ingrid, set back in 2013 was the last hurricane we had. The old record goes back to between 1929 and 1932. And as far as Florida goes, look how many days it's been since we've had a hurricane. Our luck cannot hold out forever, so we need to keep our preparedness going. Now, looking at the tropical weather outlook across the Atlantic, there's really one weak tropical wave that blew off the Atlantic that held together a little bit, but conditions are very unfavorable for tropical storm development over the Atlantic, but not necessarily the Caribbean. Now we have another wave. It's stronger, 60% chance of it developing in the next 5 days. In the next 2 days, only a 30% chance as it moves into the Caribbean. There's no central circulation at this point, but once it passes into the Caribbean, this is what the spaghetti plot models look like, and more and more coming into line with it staying over the Caribbean. The model runs this evening, going over the Yucatan Peninsula and possibly becoming tropical storm or Hurricane Earl next weekend. Well, across the nation, we've had some severe weather up in the northern plains and some rough weather in the northeast, but our weather is controlled by high pressure from the Atlantic right over the Gulf, and it's keeping only subtle changes day to day in our rainfall pattern. Tomorrow late in the day, there's some storms coming out, but Monday, it looks like they'll be more scattered, and any storms that do develop may head eastward toward the Atlantic, leaving us generally free with only about a 30% chance of storms on Monday. If you're heading out tomorrow on the water, look for winds southerly 10 knots, seas 2 feet or less. Bay and inland waters will have a light chop. Our temperature at the beach tomorrow, 89, water temperature 90. Here's my forecast for the rest of tonight. Look for partly cloudy skies tomorrow with a 40% chance of storms, high temperature 90. And here's your 7-day outlook showing that we have a 20% on Monday after a 40% tomorrow. A little dry air is filtering into the state. It'll only last about a day. And then we're going to pop back up to our seasonal average of 40 to 50% on a day-to-day basis right on for the rest of the week. Now, that tropical disturbance coming into the Caribbean will not have any effect on us, maybe a little breezier, but don't look for it to be a threat to us at all. Of course, we'll be keeping it posted all weekend and next week in our weather office. And that's our weather, Christopher.